This video is going to show the process of creating a sintered glaze, of creating a speckle sort of a glaze with chunks that will melt during the firing. A shout out to Old Forge Creations. One of my students found a blog post that they did on how to do a sintered glaze, and my student wanted to try it out. So this was a test that I was doing to make sure that it was going to work okay. So here I have just blue and red cone 6 glazes that I have used. Now these are my Coyote glazes that I have in my classroom. I have really red. These are just some dried specks that when I need to dry or crush some specks, maybe I will take it off the inside of the lid, or in this case I had dripped some on a piece of plastic. Now I'm just going to crush those up until they are much smaller pieces that I can fire for the sintering. So I'm doing this with both the red and the blue. I kind of found that my plastic jug wasn't hard enough, so here I decided to go for a flat bottom mug. That helped it out a little bit more. And so again, these are unfired dry chips of a glaze. So now you can see they're a little bit smaller. Now I'm going to put them in, I've got like just a bisque fired plate is all you need. And I have like a little double plate that I made for sintering a couple different glazes. So I'm going to just kind of distribute that on there and kind of spread it out. So what's going to happen is I'm going to fire these at a really low temperature, and I'm trying to do that without creating too much breeze. I don't want to create dust. And here I am. This is sped up a little bit, but I'm doing the exact same thing with the blue glaze. So this is my Coyote Cobalt. So now that I have them both in the little tray, I'm ready to put them into a kiln to fire them. Now this is going to be one of the many great uses that I've had for this great little Scut Firebox test kiln. So I have them in there, and now I'm going to be firing this up, and this is a really easy kiln to program. So I am going to be cone firing it. As you can see, I'm going to select my cone is 020, so it would be like a luster firing, and then on a fast fire, and then I'm going to fire it up. So it's very, very fast. Now these have been fired, and I've just put them in a Ziploc bag so I can keep track of them. Now I'm adding some of the red to both the white glaze and the blue glaze, and then I'm going to add some of the blue to the white glaze and the red glaze. Now, I'm just using basic glazes here. All three of the glazes that I'm using, the white, the blue, and the red, they're all pretty stable. They don't have a lot of flux to this. This would be a fun thing you could try, and I'll do another video at some point of using maybe a glaze that has a little bit more flux to it, and see what those little chips or chunks will look like when they melt. Now, here is the big advantage of doing a sintered glaze. So if you've ever used any of those, like the crystal forming glazes, I don't know, are they called jungle gems? I know that Amico, they always used to have crystal glazes. I would sometimes get them when I taught elementary school. And they have these little chunks, or it looks like crystals inside the glaze. Well, what it is, it's just chunks of sintered glaze that are in there. Now, the point of sintering is that it's not going to melt when it gets in the liquid, but it will melt when it gets fired. So once it goes to cone 020, the chemical water is gone, and it will not dissolve, is what I'm trying to say. So here you can see the chunks that are on the plate. I've got the chunks in the blue, there's chunks in the white, and I'm still applying 3 coats, and as I dip it in there, I make sure that I have lifted up chunks out of the glaze as I put it on. Then I'm just kind of tidying this up here, and I'm going to do the last little bit. Oh, and by the way, I did not do the crystal chunks on the exterior. So you can see that the underneath side of the plate is blue already. I just used straight blue glaze on that because I didn't want anything to potentially fall off during the firing. So now this really kind of illustrates, you can see the chunks there. You just can't really see the colors well at this point. Now I'm going to add my last color. I'm going to add the red. Again, these are real basic. I think it would be fun to try this with all variety of sorts of glazes. Like in Coyote, maybe the Archie's base would be kind of fun to give that a shot because they do some cool things. Or a Moroccan sand glaze like Robin's Egg. That has a nice flexy, runny quality to it. Maybe some Amico glazes. I'm not as familiar with some of those, but I know that, I mean, there's things that have flux in the name even. It's a flux is just one that's going to melt and turn a little bit more liquidy. Sometimes it will run during the firing. And those, if you sinter those, I think it would really create quite the mottled smeary effect in a way. So once it's all applied, I have my 3 coats on. Now I'm going to fire this to my cone 6 like I normally would, and this is the result. So you can see how the blue and the red have, really come out. And again, a shout out to Old Forge Creations, their blog post that my student found. And I love making videos where my students can learn new things, try new things, and experiment. I hope you try it yourself. Drop me any questions that you have below. Stay creative and keep potting if you can.